Hello there everyone and welcome to a new review on the channel, and today we're looking at Offstage by Alexander Marsh in the 1914, a download this time, so not an actual physical product but a download based around mentalism routine that can be done off stage. So having said that, let's roll the intro and get straight into the review. Perfect, so you decide to stick around, which means you want to learn more about Offstage. So what is Offstage? Offstage is, well, 5 routines that Alexander Marsh does when he's off stage. And I think I'm going to say that a lot through the reviews. It's maybe going to get annoying, but I do think it is pretty much self-explanatory. But there are 5 routines that he does off stage. So instead of performing one of the routines for you, I'm going to tell you what the 5 routines are so that you know exactly what you are getting. So the first routine is a book test. So it's essentially a borrowed book. You can go at a library, you can go at a store, at a bookshop, you can even borrow someone's book. It can even be hardcover if ever you want. But essentially you would have a book, you would hold it up, the spectator would place their finger anywhere they want, they would look at a word, you close the book, you look at them, you tell them, so you have now a word in mind from this book, correct? Now, how many pages are in the book? There's 360 pages, for example, and there's like 20 lines and like 5 words per line. There's at least 50,000 words in this book. Would you agree? They would say yes. They say perfect, but you're thinking of just one. And then you would do your pattern, and let's say the word they think of is furthermore, right? You'd say furthermore. Yes. Okay. That's the first routine. It's like an impromptu book test. The second routine is kind of a reading with 2 people. You get some people to think of different things, and then you place on the table 2 bullets and you reveal the thing that the first spectator thought of, and then you reveal the thing in more detail that the second spectator thought of. So for example, if they think of a childhood memory, you can tell them at what age that memory actually happened, and they will say, yeah, that's true, it was 12, right? So that's another routine. Another routine that you get, the third one, is a bill routine, where you have a bill, the spectator has a bill, you ask them to kind of fold it in fourths, you then give them your bill and you crumple their bill. So you crumple their bill and you don't even look at it, you just keep it in a fist. They look at your code on your bill on the serial number, and they're going to see that the serial number is like F543800942 and something, and you tell them that, did you know that every bill has a different serial number? They're going to say yes. And you tell them, do you know the serial number on your bill? They're going to say no. I couldn't possibly know as well. It's crumpled in my hand, but let's try this. You then take a pad or something and you write down the first thoughts that come to mind. And then you tell them, look, I don't even want to check. You dump their bill in their hand and the serial number matches. That's another routine that comes with this. Then another routine, possibly my favorite routine, is something called Spin the Bottle, where you have 6 spectators think of their first kiss, their first crush, their first love, and write the name on a billet. You then collect the billets, give them a small shuffle, and put them in a circular formation. You then take a bottle and you spin a bottle, and then it ends on one of the 6. So you take it and you look at the name and you say, okay, Maria. Can you all think of, if this was of why you wrote this? Why Maria? I feel you have a connection with Maria, is that correct? You hand it out. You do that 2 more times until you're left with 3 bills. You then take those bills, you mix them up, and you change away the pattern and the way you do it. And of course, as with any kind of psychometry routine or routine such as this, the last person, you're able to tell them what the person is they wrote without ever actually looking at the paper. So just by feeling it, you can tell them that it's Jacob, for example. That's my favorite routine, a very commercial one at that. And then you get the last routine, which is a game of charades, where 3 people write 3 different things. For example, one person writes a song, one person writes a movie, and one person writes a book. You then have them fold their papers and place them on the table. You ask a first person to mime what they wrote, just to show how you usually play charades. That people guess, and you show, yeah, exactly, Avatar, everyone got it right, you guys are great. But now let me show you how I do charades. And you play and you kind of get a feeling, and you ask the first spectator, okay, the second one, a song, you're thinking of a song, can you just like think of the song in your mind, and then you're able to reveal what that song is. And the same thing with the book, you're able to reveal the book without actually opening and seeing what they wrote. So kind of you're playing like mental charades instead of physical charades, which is another routine that I really like. So those are the routines that you get. So knowing that, where do you buy this? How much does it cost? And what do you get? So you can buy this at the 1914 directly, or you can buy this from Vanishing Ink. But I do feel that maybe some other stores will have this in stock as well. So check it out there. How much does it cost? It costs $30. So this costs $30 for 5 routines. And what you get is essentially the 5 routines in video format in a tutorial that runs around 2 hours long. And the tutorial is absolutely great. Alexander Marsh is a great teacher. He goes through great detail about every single routine. Some routines have some moves or use some gadgets extra to enhance the effect. And he goes over why he feels that some people misuse those and how he feels it can be used better and why he uses it in that way. So those are really insightful bits of information, as well as every performance, every trick I should say, has 2 performances of it. One performance which is in studio, either to the camera or D. Christopher, or one performance, and a performance that is done kind of out and about. So on the street, at a gig, etc. There's live performances for live people that he just brought out, and you can see how he plays those routines as well outside the studio. So that is very nice to see. So having said all that, what is the difficulty of this project? Well, the difficulty of this is rather minimal. There's not massive sleight of hand here. There's not massive moves or anything like that, or intricate gadgets. Most of it is relatively easy, but as with this is kind of a thing I say for a lot of mentalist products, is just the pattern that you put on it. Because especially in this, most of the methods are really easy, but they're bold. And what I mean by that is not that you're like taking a leap of faith, because you're always going to get the hit. This is not like using a psychological force and being bold. It's just that the methods are really easy and they're really in the face of the spectator. They're things that happen under their gaze, that happen, in front of their face, and you just have to act as if, without, because I don't want to talk about the methods too much, about the effects, but you kind of understand what I'm saying is that these are really easy, but you just have to make sure that you don't oversell it, or that you kind of, in your routining, that you make it a bit too obvious that you're not seeing what you're supposed to see, or etc., or things like that. Again, I can't say too much because it will reveal the methods, but most of the difficulty, which isn't really hard, is going to be to make sure that you script the routines well and that you learn them and you apply them as they should be. So difficulty-wise, pretty easy, but it's going to depend based on your performance style and how well you implement these routines in your shows. So moving on now to practicality. So how practical are these routines? Most of the routines are completely impromptu. The one with the book could literally be any book. So even if you have someone that has a book in their bag, you can use that. The routine with the spin a bottle, as long as you have a bottle or something that you can spin, you can do it with a car key. You can do it with anything that spins essentially and has a direction. And you have 6 pieces of paper. They don't have to be billets or anything fancy. They can just be pieces of paper. You can do it. For the charades routine, as long again as if you have 3 things, so 3 pieces of paper that you can write on, you can do the routine. If you have the one with a bill, as long as your spectator has a bill and you have a bill, you can do the routine. Probably the only one is the one with 2 people where you get some thoughts from them. That one requires you to carry something around with you, but it's very small and fits inside of your pocket. And you're going to need for that routine to carry maybe some billets or something with you. But all of the rest of the routines are kind of almost impromptu. You don't necessarily need to be like, okay, I need to make sure I have something with me when I'm going out to perform these. You can do these off the cuff and just with things that are borrowed, which is very nice. So regarding practicality wise, very, very practical. Moving on now to the angles, most of the routines are 180 to 360. So that is very nice. In terms of inspectability, most of the routines, I'd say 4 out of the 5 routines are fully inspectable. There's only one that is not really inspectable, but you kind of destroy the evidence as you go. But apart from that, all of the routines are inspectable. In terms of reset, the routines don't really need reset because again, they're kind of impromptu. So once you're done with it, as long as you get the items back again to do it, you can do it without a problem. So there's no reset in any of these routines. Some of these routines need a table, some of them don't. For example, the one with a book you can do out of a table, the one with a bill you can do without a table. But if you want to do the one with charades, or you want to do For example, the one with the bottle, you're going to need a table and able to set everything on there, okay? So regarding practicality, depending on the routine, some need a table, some don't, some need some extra props, some don't. Some are impromptu, some are not, some are 180, some are 360. So it varies, but you pretty have an amalgamation of everything that you need, and you can definitely find a routine that suits your specific performing environment. Talking about performing environment, let's get into where to perform. So where do you perform these routines? Well, Alexander Marsh performs these off stage. If ever someone asks him, he says that these are the type of routines that if someone asks like, oh, mentalism boy, show me something, right? These are the routines that he's going to go through. But I feel that these routines are so good and so well thought out that if you want to include them in your parlor show or in your walk around set, you could 100% do it. Like I feel the spin the bottle routine and the charade routine could easily even entertain like on a stage, or could entertain like a big parlor set. I feel those routines are so strong, so good, so well designed. They could entertain a large group of people easily. Even though he doesn't do them on stage, you could definitely apply them and do them on stage or parlor as well. But if not, these routines are designed to be performed off the cuff, so at your house, at a coffee shop, at a bar, table hopping, and different type of venues that are more mingling rather than extravagant stage performances. So performance-wise, really good as well. Having said all of this, what are the positives and negatives of the project of Offstage? So let's start with the negatives as we always do. What is the negative? What are some of the negatives of Offstage? There's not many. I feel that there's not many negatives here. The only negative, because I usually always give negatives. One negative I think could be that if you're already into mentalism, you may already have routines that do exactly what these do. So essentially you're just going to be buying this to learn kind of the way that Alexander Marsh spinned them. Because I feel that none of these routines are something that I was like, wow, I never did a routine like this, or I don't do a routine like this. Most of these routines I already do, but just learning his spins of it was worth buying. But I know for some people, maybe picking a gamble on that is not fully worth it, since these methods and these routines and these type of effects are not necessarily new. They're basically kind of repackaging of some classic principles in a modern way. So maybe that could be a negative if I really have to point one out. But apart from that, what are the positives of this? So what are the positives of this download? One, it is extremely well taught. There's live performances. The routines are varied enough. The routines are fun. The routines, even though they're meant to be off stage, can easily, some of them, be performed on stage or in parlor as well. The pattern you can make are great. They're engaging for the spectators, and they're really well designed. So as I said, kind of in the negative is that these are just classic principles repackaged in a modern way, which I feel is kind of a great way of kind of exemplifying Alexander Marsh as kind of a mentalist. He really takes principles and routines that people do and dresses them in such new, modern, and interesting ways. So that's really what this is about. And I think if you're new to his work, just seeing how he thinks and how he redresses things is really worth it. It's great. I think he is kind of growing up to be one of my favorite mentalists out there. He really is good in that regard. So having said all of that, what I recommend Offstage, and what do I rate it out of 10? So what I recommend Offstage, if you're a mentalist, yes, I think even though you're not maybe going to do all of the routines, you're maybe going to enjoy some of the routines, and you're going to enjoy the way he presents them, and maybe instead of just taking the way he performs it, you're going to just apply the presentation that he puts on it in your already existing routines. So that's valuable already enough right there. However, if you're a magician and you don't really perform mentalism, then maybe this is not going to be for you. If you want to dip your toes into mentalism, then yes, I think these are relatively easy routines to do so. So could be worth it for you. But for mentalists, I definitely think this is worth a look at. And what would I rate it out of 10? I think this is great. And I think I am going to be using a few of these routines, specifically 3. The book test, the spin the bottle, and the charades one. I think that even though I'm not going to perform it exactly like that, I do think I'm going to redress them with my own style and possibly give them a run and perform them. So I am giving Off Stage by Alexander Marsh, and 8.5 on 10. It is a really nice download. It is something very cool, and I think it is worth a look if you're a mentalist. So, having said that, if you have any comments or questions, leave them down below. If not, I'll catch you in the next review. Have a great one, and bye-bye.